Hi, friends. My name is Hannah, and I share on here what I'm learning, what I'm thinking about as I try to figure out how to enjoy life more as a disabled, differently abled human being. So I just wanted to share something that was really positive for me yesterday regarding, agoraphobia, social phobia, like being afraid of being a person in the world and having my mind be caught up, having my mind and my body being so caught up, embracing, trying to predict all the negative things that could happen, trying to, you know, kind of the scars that I have from all the internalized self harm and punishment that has majorly been a part of most of my life. Um, and, I'm still working on fully um, figuring out what the alternative is to that, but I'm at least I made so much progress in being compassionate and loving and proud and respectful of myself as I am, and not taking on blame for all my supposed negative attributes or flaws or failures or the things that society has this whole mythology around that our story we're taught to understand our stories in terms of taking on so much blame and using punishment against ourselves. um, and it's really hard when there's like major lack of resources that cause so many distorted perspectives and lack of options to people, which resources like emotional resources, love, support, care, energetic resources, like physical resources, like just I guess the widespread effects of worldwide poverty and the scars of war and trying to compete for resources, how that has affected our the very shaping of our culture and the implicit like violence or coercion under the threat of punishment. um and we're all affected by it, by the society we live in, by the things we're subjected to in media, by our parents, and to some degree, um and then we can a lot of the times really internalize it without necessarily realizing what is going on. And that has been a big part of my own journey. But anyway, so yeah, that's just kind of like what I tend to struggle with in general. Like when I go out in public, this agoraphobia and social phobia that is based on all these scars related to um, expecting, anticipating punishment, shame, and like horrendous lack of resources. And these punishments and shame which come from other people, which came from myself, that I learned to internalize. And then that can come from the compounded result of not having access to enough resources, like the panic disorder that I went through. And that, I sometimes still do experience symptoms related to that, but it's nothing like it used to be um, for the past year. And I'm very grateful for that. Um, so, anyway, with that said, the good thing that happened yesterday for me was I've been doing this thing lately where I'm just like, I guess, well, okay, I had a conversation with my boyfriend where I guess I realized that, when you go through life in not the most emotionally healthy scenarios, just in cultures where we aren't taught like how to love, how to honor people. We're just taught like don't harm people, or maybe not even taught not to harm people. We're taught to harm people only if they deserve it, or whatever the moralistic thing is, you know. But we aren't taught maybe like how to love, like the opposite of that. Like, what does love look and feel like? And especially learning as individuals, what does love look like and feel like for me? There's my boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years, and it's going to be a continuing unfolding process together as we learn as individuals, like, oh, I never realized this is a way that like I actually feel love, and it brings so much support, and we can actually get more out of our relationship with one another, more trust, more security, more stability, more collaboration than we ever realized. And a part of that was just realizing like, oh, like we like truly want to support, be there for each other. And I think it took me a while to kind of catch up since we've known each other. Like, he's always been, I don't want to say always has been, but I think in some ways he has been ahead of the curve on me when it comes to not shaming, not punishing himself, telling himself, like, I have a right to be here. I have a right to be a human in the world. I have a right to, like, and, you know, and I think that's really beautiful. And I have definitely internalized that more in myself, not just from seeing his example of kind of like passively absorbing that model, but also through all the work that I've been doing on a personal level, like obsessively so, like trying to examine and get to the root of why do I have so much internalized hatred and shame and like um, separation from myself against myself, you know? Um, and so, yeah, we were talking, my boyfriend and I were talking a couple nights ago, and just realizing that I don't know, it just like set in my mind this sense of like, oh, like the page is turning, like maybe I don't have to keep on feeling so hectic every day. And I'm not saying this is like one sudden, like you just read it and it's like the Matrix, it's like teleported into your brain and you're a completely new person. I'm not saying that that can be promised to anybody, but I'm saying that some combination of factors, me having a break from my nervous system, me having much less distractions from my boyfriend supporting me financially, and then me just like making income through like he's making it possible so I can just make income through going to house sits with dogs. And there's a lot less distraction and stress on my nervous system, and less need to comply with like masking and maintaining my survival guard up, that is all about still operating under the coercion and terror of like shame and punishment within these work environments. So I'm very, very grateful to be outside of that. But I kind of forgot what I was just talking about. I need like, if I was writing, I could go up and read it again. But anyway, don't know what I was just saying. But let's see. I was talking about hmm, my mind is totally blank. I was talking about something about shame. Something about my boyfriend. Anyway, okay, I don't know what I was talking about. There was something else I wanted to include in there, but when it comes to yeah, yesterday then, so I was like, yeah, basically I'm just like, okay, maybe I do feel safe in general. Maybe I can really just sink in to like my life can be simple. I can be figuring out like who am I as a person outside of just surviving and having my mind be, hyper focused on all these, trying to sort out all these patterns and make sense of everything that has happened and trying to control horrible circumstances. Outside of that, like, who am I just as a person? Like, getting to know myself on a personal level with like hobbies. Who am I when I feel safe enough to learn and I feel safe enough within myself that I can learn and like see it as play or an opportunity to caretake for myself instead of seeing learning as an opportunity to like have proof of my failure or my incompetency or my inabilities or whatever, like having that relationship with with myself. And that's why I really like my bass that I got just recently, um, because it's very much not about performance. It's just about me being like, how does it feel? Like just like being like, oh, learning notes on the fretboard, like not trying to play songs, not trying to perform, just being like, oh, it's a relationship. Let's get to know one another kind of thing. But outside of that, yeah, just really like I'm in this time of being like, okay, maybe I can feel safe enough that like I am just reading books on the subjects that interest me, like um, just everything related to neurodivergent advocacy. And I'm reading a book about the history of eugenics in America right now, which is really interesting. And I'm just really curious in general, like how has shame and punishment and terror and coercion been used in regular just communication and teaching styles through history? And what are the alternatives that we've seen throughout history and the systems that have to be in place that allow um, the better alternatives to happen, like sure, rely on shame, terror, whatever in absolute survival circumstances, but that can't be a way of life. And so much of the world, the modern world, is just like the way of life that people communicate with each other, try to share their thoughts and feelings or ideas, attempt to identify and solve problems in the world. And I don't think it can be stopped fully. It's probably, I like to imagine sometimes that like the sun is just like Earth was, however many billions of years ago. But the sun is like fully evolved, and that's all that we humans can comprehend with the sun. Is it's just like a ball of blazing fire. Like everything just works in unity so strong that it literally gives off um, the capacity for life on an entirely different planet. Like I kind of think of the sun as like a very evolved form of life that like people can't really comprehend. But I'm like, okay, that's maybe the stage that we have to get to for shame and punishment to not be involved in any way, shape, or form. So gotta have realistic expectations. But yeah, that is important to me. Reading about those topics, about more things too, related to music and just, I don't know, um, how coping with the difficulties of life has been um, a part of pop culture, just a part of culture in general, especially with gothic kind of culture. Like I have been reading some books talking about like the history of the word gothic and the origins of like gothic architecture and like the term gothic in general, um, not just related to the Germanic tribes that were like faulted for bringing down the Roman Empire, so they were associated with like fear and destruction and barbaric things, but how that then started to be associated with literature and architecture, that term, and it just like focusing more on the darker things of life and bringing humor and curiosity and like romanticism and beauty to make these things easier to withstand and to be a way to cope with anxiety and pain in the world. So I've been reading books about that too. But outside from that, I so last night I was like, okay, my boyfriend and I were like, okay, we're gonna go out of the house. I am wanting to try to practice having days when I'm at home, at least, not house sitting, having my days be about like I'm not going to use any kind of shame or fear against myself. And if I feel that subconsciously, being like, there's no right answer, like there is no moral answer, there's no what I should be doing, there's literally just what I feel gravitated towards. um, what feels enjoyable for me. And a part of that yesterday was like, okay, I do want like to help my cardiovascular health and like my sense of fitness, and to be able to see the birds, hear the birds outside, like breathe the fresh air, have an enjoyable walk with my boyfriend, like have like our love be, and the things that we do together be like a really big part of my life, not just something that I'm kind of like, oh, that's on the back burner, like that, but learn how to bring like our love and enjoying life together more to the forefront, and continuing to learn like the things we do together. It doesn't just have to be about performance. It can be about enjoyment of one another, and like how we work together when we're outside doing normal things. It might seem like nothing for other people, but for us it's something we do have to kind of learn how to work together as a team. And we're walking at this local park that's really pretty, and there was an area with some kids who were yelling and going crazy, and all of a sudden there's like all these bikes on the path and these dogs and other people walking and a train going by, and it just started to feel really like overwhelming. And and I think in the past I would have just tried to numb out. This is part of agoraphobia, right? You you can tend to, and social phobia too, because you're afraid of what if somebody tries to use punishment or shame or threats against me because I don't like something I'm doing, and then what if I trust myself to not in turn use that violence against myself in order to attempt to try to survive. And so in the past, um I think I would have just like tried to really numb and like be like press on, like I'm not gonna think, not gonna feel, I'm just gonna go in numb mode, just press on. And I would have like my nervous system would have been in survival, really like just like breathing hard, like I'm not in my body, I'm like fully in my mind, like my mind racing, thinking, analyzing. And I'm just like, my goal just becomes like, get to the car, get back to the car. And instead of that, I was saying like I feel angry that that kid just yelled in my ear as they drove by on the bike. Like I said that out loud. And I was like, I was just like saying to my boyfriend, like, this feels overwhelming walking out here, and like I'm having a hard time remembering what we were even talking about. And then when we got back to the car, we were like, okay, let's just take, like, we were going to the grocery store to get some bananas, and we were just like, okay, I just need a few minutes to be able to kind of process what happened. And we were talking, and just he said that he had felt like maybe we shouldn't go off in that direction because it is kind of intense over there. And like I had asked him, like, do you want to go down this trail? And for me, I was thinking about the length of the path. But for him, and I was thinking, like, if I'm outside, I might as well try to get some exercise. And and for him, he was thinking more about the quality of experience, but he didn't have that thing in his brain that was like, I can't remember his exact words, but he said something like he felt like he couldn't, like he didn't want to seem pressuring by speaking his thoughts and feelings, by having it be even weighed into consideration, which is something that he's experienced from his upbringing. It comes from his upbringing being kind of like, and I'm sure just throughout life as an adult too, and all these fucked up work situations, just being like, is it even safe to speak my thoughts and feelings? And probably just odd, like I asked him, like, do you want to go this way? And I guess for he didn't think of it, um, or maybe it was over only after the fact that he realized what was really important to him once we got into all the hyper stimulation. Um, because he said it was also stressful for him. And so we were just like, and I was like, during the walk, like I was thinking to myself, like, I was feeling stressed, but I was thinking to myself, like, you're brave, you can handle this, like, just keep on going, ignore it, perform, get this walk done, like, keep on, like, having this conversation with Marcel, my boyfriend, like, just, I was kind of subconsciously thinking that to myself, and I was like, why didn't I just think to myself, like, I can, like, I feel stressed. And then my response to stress isn't automatically like, here's how to survive and push through and stay with the predetermined plan, but instead my process can be like, oh, like, how do I help myself feel less stressed? Like, that actually matters. That actually matters because that is what changes it rebuilds trust with myself, for one, and it helps my nervous system to, um, you know, realize that when I get freaked out, like, I can be safe and I'm not overwhelming myself to where I'm just kind of re-traumatizing myself, so to speak. Um, and so that I'm actually able to make it sustainable for me to want to go outside on walks and not just always see it as something scary to be afraid of and to avoid, but actually to hopefully get more enjoyment and value out of it so that I'm drawn to go and it doesn't feel like a chore, like I have to force myself to do it. Um, so yeah, I went on the yeah, so basically we were just thinking, like, maybe in the future, I know it is sticky with partners and other people in general when you tell them your thoughts and feelings, and then feeling like, well, what is the right choice? You might not necessarily know what is motivating the other person to say what they are, and you're like, but I think if you have faith, trust in yourself and trust in the other person, that there is no absolute right answer, like there's no emergency, like you're not going to hate and shame and punish one another or yourselves in response to whatever happens. I think that having that perspective be like the driving force in a dynamic is what makes it safe to really open up more and be like, how can we kind of ping off each other a little bit more in the moment and be like, weigh in both of our thoughts and feelings instead of just forcing ourselves to go with a predetermined plan, because my boyfriend can be like, I that area like looks really crowded, maybe it won't be the most enjoyable. And then that was an example that he said. And then I could be like, oh yeah, like we can walk this way, um or just stop. There's always an option to limit the choices and just stop and breathe and like look at the ducks or the trees or whatever's around. And I want to use that a lot more also, rather than having my mind feel this sense of like pressure, like I have to choose right now, and trying to weigh out like what is the right choice, what is the best choice, because that is exhausting. And that's a big part of my agoraphobia and social phobia, is this sense in my mind of feeling like I'm always, scars from the past, feeling like I'm always in this extremely under-resourced position. I'm more resourced now that I'm with my boyfriend and I have a lot of physical protection for my nervous system, and I've learned how to be my own best friend, basically, like how to partner with myself, how to motivate and learn from and make decisions internally, have dialogue internally, create narratives about myself and my life that don't use shame and punishment. That has really helped me to lessen this sense of stakes. But it is that kind of scar, just remembering your nervous system, your body, your subconscious, whatever, it remembers all the experiences where you were around people in environments, in internal environments where it always was a heightened emergency, where if you didn't make the right choice and like quickly like weigh it out, make the right choice, like there are going to be severe, like punishing, harming consequences. That's a real thing, and it's something to continue to heal from. But yeah, so that was the walk. And then afterwards, like in the past, I would have been so wiped, so exhausted, so upset, and just like having all these really painful memories come into my mind. Which, by the way, I think that's a part of ADHD with the hyperactive mind. Um, that's the part of like your mind is so hyperactive, trying to anticipate, trying to plan, trying to distract, trying to distract, use your mind to be the thing that distracts you from the painful, scary things in your reality. Or, your mind is off like trying to anticipate and plan and find alternatives to protect you from pain. And, so um, not that like your hyperactive mind can also be like just you being like really happy and planning like positive things and being motivated by joy. But I feel like sometimes it can be, at least for me, it's like in my life experiences, it's that hyperactivity, the mind has been more associated towards trying to survive suboptimal circumstances and being motivated by like terror and pain, instead of my mind is hyperactive because I'm so happy and joyful, and I'm like excited, moved by love, moved by hope, and a sense of control, like a sense of the control to protect everything that is meaningful, like safety and sustainable, like quality of life for yourself and your loved ones, and justice to remove more pain from the world, and all those really beautiful things. Anyway, I don't want to get too distracted, but basically, yeah, yesterday after that walk, I didn't feel drained as I would have, and I think I'm not sure all the magical factors that came about, but I really felt like it was a turning point in me last night, that I was I didn't feel drained. I still felt in my body. And I think the biggest thing that helped me, honestly, was not using shame or violence or pressure against myself. Pressure may not be mean, but pressure can, still putting pressure on myself to like solve and control things, that can be a form of violence in some circumstances too. And I think that's one of the forms of like motivating or relating and collaborating with myself that I've retained, that I'm trying to get rid of, like putting this sense of pressure on me and this sense of like, oh, I should be able to keep on performing a certain way, or I like should um comply with some like behavior that I've been taught is worthy or is mature or is how you survive or whatever, and instead just being like no, I'm actually honoring my actual nervous system and what my thoughts and feelings are actually telling me, and I'm not putting pressure on myself like that. I think that's the biggest thing that helped me last night, was like I didn't put pressure on myself to try to go through my mind and creating this big old theory of like the who, what, when, where, why, and how, and this whole comprehensive, like, what are they called, dissertation on why I had gotten into this position of feeling stressed out and how I can prevent it and who was to blame, and all these other memories of bad things that have happened that are attached to that same vibration of like nervous system, um like tension and bracing and fear. Because I think I noticed that like if I'm at an emotional like frequency of like fear, and I'll tend to have more invasive memories that are related to that, like things from the past. And it's definitely been something for me that I tend to like feel like I'm reliving it, that thing. And it's hard to like stop, and because you're trying to get to the bottom of it. And yeah, it's hard, but I don't know. Last night I was grateful for how things happened, and and I was able to like, I don't know, I feel like lately when I've been having these invasive emotional memories, it's been really helping me to just be like, yeah, I am angry. Yeah, that was messed up. Like, I'm sorry, Hannah, you should have never experienced that. And then it helps me let go of it a lot quicker, rather, I don't know, rather than getting caught up in other things that have distracted me. Like, trying to like psychoanalyze everything, trying or being like harmful or blaming towards myself that I should have been different, or I should have done differently, or whatever it may be. Just like seeing myself as unfavorable, like that is, I think that's something that I want to continue learning about. Like, how do you take that balance of being like, I think it has to do with gut feeling, like, do I even have the energy and bandwidth to be like, I am taking it upon myself that I'm resourced enough where I can be the bigger person or whatever, and say like it is my responsibility to change in some way, or I have like sufficient emotional motivation or just like resources to sustainably change in some way. Because it is that idea of, how do we change and grow if we aren't using shame and fear against ourselves? And it's like, well, growth isn't like inherently a good thing. It's not going to save the day. It's not going to, sometimes it's just people wanting to like get the sense of satisfaction or money or whatever from controlling you. It's trying to enforce this idea that you're always supposed to be growing. And sometimes it's just like, problems can be solved in a different way. You just need to work with the actual resources you have. Like, you need to identify your resources better, your actual personal resources, your loved ones, what are their actual resources, and what is everybody's actual limitations. Because sometimes I think we can really put a lot of pressure on ourselves and others to try to comply with things that we think are the ingredients to success, but it's actually not sustainable or realistic, or not emotionally motivating, not enjoyable, not an enjoyable process. Anyway, last night, yeah, after we went on that walk, then we went to the gym. And normally at the gym, like, I feel just like really afraid, like this sense like anybody could like strike out at me at any second, which nobody has ever done at the gym. Someone's only done that once to me when I was homeless, and someone like acted like they were gonna punch me, but I just like completely acted like I didn't see them, like they were invisible and they didn't do anything else. I think it was someone on drugs. But anyway, when we're at the gym, I tend to have it feel like, I think I'm learning more about this too, like the scars I have in relation with a partner in public. And it comes back to like my mom and my dad in public, like how they regarded me, how I saw myself in light of them, that I was supposed to perform to make them proud, or that I was supposed to like analyze and try to control them to prevent like basically bullies from harming them. I was supposed to like side with the bullies and like anticipate what would bring harm, and then try to get my loved one to comply with what won't get them harm. And instead I've just been really about like fuck all that disgusting, like trying to comply with these standards of people who use like violence and shame and stuff to change people, and I'm feeling very much like, no, like I want to have like utter love and strength for myself and for my loved ones, no matter what we look like, no matter what we're doing, no matter what like class signifiers or like I don't know, moral or personal characteristic type of signifiers anybody could assume or deduce from us based on little clues we give just living in the world. And thinking like that is so exhausting. And then thinking about your partner, like I've tended to think about that with my boyfriend also. That I've apologized to him, but ways that like internalizing this sense of like really being afraid and anticipating like aspects of him that are signified to things that like I find that I correlate to like using shame to change instead of using like love and compassion to be like, oh, this is a sign of being under resourced, and then using love and compassion, you know. So there, yeah, so basically like going into the gym, it felt good. Like I felt like I wasn't performing under the eye of scrutiny, like imagining this sense in me that like these people are like scrutinizing myself and my boyfriend, and it's like a very high stakes survival situation. All these scars from the past, right? Of real events, of real experiences, and also just cultural collective experiences that we see so much in media and the stories people tell about themselves and their lives. Like it's fully put into every aspect of culture. So no wonder that we think in those ways unless we're very lucky to grow up in environments that were more resourced and supported and full of, you know, love and compassion. And also if you've learned, you've taken the time and effort, as I am now, to change the way you think towards things in life, um, after having so much pain that you're like, oh, I just can't function otherwise unless I like learn how to make life feel safe. You know, like what would life feel like if it was actually safe? And I refused to comply with terror, you know, terrorism against myself, terrorism that I internalize against myself or that I entertain from other people. So, yeah, at the gym, felt nice to just be able to like smile with my boyfriend and like I don't know, like something about like not feeling like all my senses are around like the environment around me, like trying to track all the movement, trying to anticipate, trying to like hear. Um, but instead being like, oh, like I'm hearing my boyfriend, like I'm looking, seeing, and feeling my boyfriend, like talking to him, feeling like I'm more in my own body and my own life. And I was able to do that, just like, you know, just little like, oh, you're gonna do this, so this machine, I'm gonna go over there, like love you, talk to you later, like. And I was able to move around in the gym, you know, going to the bathroom and going, I only did the elliptical. That's another thing, is I had in my mind like this sense of pressure, like, oh, you need to do the weight machines, you need to do the stair stepper. And I was like, I'm just gonna rebel as against that voice that is telling me I should do something. That voice I have in my head that's like trying to use pushiness, and like I don't want to overstimulate my nervous system. Like I just wanted to have a good experience at the gym, simple, to help encourage me, to help it be less scary for next time, and to be like, actually, you know what? I can tell myself like I belong here. I deserve to be in a public space. Like I'm a fellow human being who has just as much dignity and worth as everyone else. And this is really hard to think, especially for me, like having been homeless and like different variations of homeless, you know, several different, but just feeling like people treated me as like scum, like always the like basically the demonized person. A lot of that also came from the I don't want to get into all that right now, but I was just gonna say like the social service kind of programs that I went through, where that's just a part of the attempts to heal and teach and support people, is using so much shame and like getting people to hate and punish themselves in order to think that you can have change happen, you know? Motivate yourself in those ways, or in order, thinking people have to be the ones to save themselves and to extricate themselves from their circumstances by like forcing themselves to, and instead of you know, unfortunately there aren't those systems in society right now that are like really pre-made ways that, especially people like me who haven't been, we didn't grow up in a supportive environment that kind of put us into environments that were safe and supportive of our needs and our aptitudes and all this. I keep on dropping these little balls I'm playing with. These little, they came from my sock, but um, anyway, yeah, at the gym, I was just like, oh, like, I just wanted it to feel good to me. Just have it, thinking of things in terms of like a longer stretch of time, a longer unfolding of comfort, me taking my time and actually growing with like self trust and true like expansion of what feels good and bearable for my nervous system, instead of just like hanging on white knuckled for dear life trying to force myself to comply. Like that's so exhausting, not sustainable. Forcing myself to comply with the behaviors that I want to do, you know, or think I should be doing. Maybe I don't realize I don't want to do it yet, and I just think it's something I should do. That's another thing that's hard, is trying to discern like what you actually like and what is right for you in this season of your life compared to what you think it should be. So, yeah, at the gym yesterday, I was just like, oh, this, like, I am on this elliptical, and like I'm not feeling this sense of like I don't belong here. I am like not really a human. I am not one of you. Like I am and just, or like feeling like terrified, like I have to brace myself, anticipate harm from other people by like telling myself like I am, like I don't know, like having this scary inner narrative towards myself to try to be like I won't be manipulated or brought down if other people attack me. Which, you know, I know that mindset, that definitely, if nothing else, that came from a job I worked at Amazon, where there was a lot of antagonistic people who wanted to try to um, manipulate and uh, just, and even aside from manipulation, because I know that's a really loaded, baggagey word. A lot of people, especially the managers, with some coworkers too, they just really wanted to, you know, use fear and harming people and seeing people trying to cope with it as a way of entertaining themselves, as a way of keeping people in line, keeping people compliant, you know, that disgusting form of leadership that was rampant when I worked at Amazon for 2 years. So that's another thing that why that's been internalized in my mind. I'm still healing from it. But yeah, when I was at the gym and I was like, I'm just gonna use the elliptical, like breathe. Like I actually was, my heart rate was up, I was sweating a little bit, I was breathing, and I was like, oh, it feels good to be in my body. It feels safe. And I felt my muscles feeling kind of sore, feeling interested with like all the different movements, and the elliptical is my favorite machine to use at the gym because it's kind of fun. And anyway, my memory's almost out on this, but I just wanted to share that it went really good yesterday, and it felt like an encouraging turning point for me. And yeah, if I'd love to hear your thoughts, if you can relate to any of these things or have anything to share related to agoraphobia and social phobia and, you know, self-love and self-acceptance, especially as, you know, a differently abled or disabled person out in the world. So anyway, okay, take care. Bye.